With this session update, I'm Shannon Lurkey. The Senate held a lengthy debate on a bill that would create a $20 million law enforcement operations account to cover expenses incurred during civil unrest. Here are some highlights from the floor session.
Senate File 1354 presents an opportunity for us to provide money for a law enforcement account that will be available for communities and law enforcement agencies to draw on if there are unusual circumstances that happen within their jurisdictions. Before we proceed any further, Mr. President, I would like to offer the A50 amendment. Essentially, what this amendment does is that it offers some language that clarifies a few items. Number one, it removes the word state agencies. The purpose of these funds were not to reimburse the state agencies, and it is stated as such. It also makes note that this is not an annual appropriation, but rather it's a one-time appropriation of funds. We are changing the basic panel from 5 law enforcement officials to 2 sheriffs, 2 police chiefs, and the Commissioner of Public Safety. We have indicated that for communities that are represented on that board, only one may be in excess of 50,000 individuals. And also we're providing a provision here so that if there was a community that is represented by one of the members of the board or the panel that has submitted a claim, that that particular individual needs to recuse themselves. And we have the following enactment is the dates that we are applying retroactive to March 1st. And we are changing the $15 million allocation to $20 million and out of fiscal year 2021. And it indicates again that this is a one-time transfer. And Mr. President, the other provisions of the bill basically provide that lists out those items that are compensable for the mutual aid compensation, and it also provides within this bill the format which those items are actually. It allows for the Commissioner to develop the format by which the application can be made for these funds, and we believe that at this point this is a bill that will allow everyone to be assured that their financial needs will be met as they participate and provide mutual aid in these circumstances.
What this bill does, it says, we're giving you money, do whatever you want. We don't want to know because we don't care to know. Just go ahead, use the money however you want. If we were responsible legislators who truly care about the job of law enforcement officers today, we actually will be asking the question. So members, I encourage you to vote no and go back to the conversation and really ask these difficult questions that we need to ask. My constituents are asking you to please be responsible and do not use the trauma and the painful moment that my city is living right now, and that many of you are using for your political gain and your political purposes to divide our community.
I'm afraid that the barricades that we're seeing around the government centers and centers of wealth that are being erected out are foreshadowing an outcome that we all dread, a verdict that would deny the justice for the murder of George Floyd. And that would escalate conflict with law enforcement and lead to more injury and deaths. But being a Southsider, I can also offer a little bit of insight as to what our role of the Senate can and should be. And that's to repair, de-escalate, and begin the long overdue process of change and healing. What we should be doing is continuing the work around police accountability and reform that we started last year. Today, on the day of the first day of the trial of the murder of George Floyd, if we were to pass legislation that would meaningfully change our system of policing and public safety, we could honestly say that may have prevented the death of George Floyd and others like him in the future, we would be doing much more to keep the peace in Minneapolis than all of the law enforcement presence that Minnesota taxpayer money can buy.
We are providing $20 million so that there's resources available for other communities to come and help, not just Minneapolis, but frankly on the pipelines up north or Bemidji or Wadena or wherever else there might be rioting going on and they request more help. But when we talk about this in some way being bad or not trusting the police, I think the police know better than anyone else what resources they're going to need and how many of those resources they're going to need when they're trying to keep our streets safe. And so we're going to work with them. If you think about last year, there was a police accountability bill that we passed in a bipartisan way, and there is an additional reform here in that we're given another 6 months of training to make sure that they implement some of the things that were passed.
I would just encourage a no vote on Senate File 1354. The League of Minnesota Cities is opposed to this provision. The Association of Minnesota Counties is opposed. The Minnesota Intercounty Association, because they know the kind of instability that this creates and the lack of connectedness that we have as a state. They stand up for one Minnesota. The Senate should stand up for one Minnesota. We should take care of each other. So, Mr. President, again, I stand up in dismay and shock and disappointment in the disrespectful manner in which I feel treated by the majority party in ambushing us on a day of tremendous consequence and potential tension in my community, and the substance of this proposal, which also creates division between Minnesotans.
My concern as it applies to this bill is that there will be provocation against people that are peaceful and thoughtful on their own lands. In the last couple of months, there are folks that have received charges after the fact, sometimes weeks or days for being there in a protest. Water protectors have been cited by the DNR for being on their own ceremonial locations by the Mississippi River, an area that I myself have visited and felt the spirit that was there. No parking signs are placed up and down near the Palisade area, though parking is legal elsewhere on the road. Some arrestees are being offered release on condition that they not protest again. That's in violation of our First Amendment rights.
Obviously, with the Chauvin trial beginning, we do need to do something so that law enforcement is prepared. But I'm very disappointed that this bill wasn't heard in judiciary. At least it's one of the few committees I'm on where I could better understand the bill, and that perhaps my city, my capital city, could have testified. I understand they weren't invited to weigh in when it was heard in finance either. So I represent the state capitol, and as I said, there's many peaceful demonstrations that go on here. You're all aware of them, but why wouldn't St. Paul be consulted, since we are the capital city?
Minneapolis did a very poor job of handling the issue. Now, we all have to agree to that. And then to make matters worse, they talked about defunding the police. I and two other senators stood in front of the media and said, if they start talking like this, we're going to have bigger trouble. As it turns out, we did have big trouble. We had a lot of problems. There's a case to be made that if this would have been dealt with in a timely fashion, other cities probably wouldn't have had to go through this. I don't know that. I would never speculate that, but there is a case to be made for that. Members, the governor brought this up. The governor brought forward this want for this money. This body's stepping up and saying, we're willing to do that. We're willing to do that from Roseau County to Rock County, all over the place, all over the whole state. We're willing to put taxpayers' dollars out here for law enforcement if they need it. If they need it. If they don't need it, then it goes back into the general fund. We are addressing the issue here on the Senate floor.
I'd also like to mention and defend Section 1, the DACA account. There's no malfeasance in this, members. This is a fund that has been working since 2014. And if our good friend, Senator Cohen, was on this floor, the author of this bill, along with Representative Pawlowski, he would say, and he would verify that this fund was specific for natural disasters. We met 7 times this summer and in the fall. And I am not convinced that the governor didn't know what he was doing here. He had every right to take that money. The governor can do that. Under the executive order, he can take that money. So we're just straightening out the definition, members, of this disaster account. We're making sure it's used in the intent that it was developed and voted on in 2014. Otherwise, we have special sessions all over the place. The bill gets huge. There's fighting. It's a pile-on. You spend more money than you need to, and you get the money right out the door right away. So again, we're just asking the governor to include the legislature, and he should have included us on this DACA account. He should have had that conversation. He should have said, we need to do something for these cities. But instead, he took it from this fund that has been very, very successful. And it's the gem of the FEMA, of the Director Kelly. He loves this fund because nowhere else in the nation do they have it, and it has been abused.
As we go forward from here, I would like to say that having visited with the individual in charge of preparing and having to react to whatever might happen in the upcoming weeks, and let us all say that we should all hope and pray that nothing does. We should all hope and pray that local leaders are reaching out to community leaders to try and stop this type of activity from happening again. We should hope that those individuals who did come into the area from the outside, on both sides of an issue, are not listened to by those who live within the area. But as we go forward, the amount of money which has been talked about by the Majority Leader and the Speaker of the House is more than sufficient to cover those needs.
So I don't care whether it's the pipeline up north or whether it's riots in Minneapolis and St. Paul, wherever the police groups have come to us and said, look, we want to prepare, we want to do it in a way that we are ready, and I do believe this time around the governor gets that he has to respond quickly, that he cannot wait 4 or 5 days to make a decision, but needs to respond right away. And I believe with that action, I believe no matter what the outcome of that trial is we will be ready.
There being 35 ayes and 32 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to.
To continue following these issues and more, watch legislative coverage Monday through Friday on the PBS Minnesota channel or visit our website, www.senate.mn/media.